Yes, everyone, welcome back. I hope you guys are having a great day. I hope you guys got some plans for Valentino Day. Obviously, I'm sure some of you guys don't. And that's why I'm here to fill the void. So today, I'm here to break down the latest. Sorry, I can't be starting a video like this, can I? Sorry for the disrespect, my friends. But you know what? Obviously, we got some news stories to break down. I hope you guys enjoy. Lots of stories to break down, so for the sake of keeping things at a decent length, I'll have to break it up into two separate videos for today, so have those notification buttons on. Right now, I'll be discussing club news and Antonio Conte's revealing interview discussing his life at our football club. So hit that like button, share your thoughts and opinions, and without wasting any more time. So let's start things with the first story, and I'll be planning on moving on Raheem Sterling at the end of the season. Now this comes from journalist Graham Bailey reporting from HITC News, and he reports that the club are considering now moving Raheem Sterling on due to possibly the lack of impact, his incredibly high wages as well too, and they feel like he might not necessarily have a long-term future. He's 29 years old, and I guess if we keep him, we're still liable to pay an incredible amount of money because he's earning over £300,000 a week, which is absolutely incredible. And you know what? That's kind of the news around the story. So I'm going to have to give my thoughts and opinions. Do I feel like this is the right move to make? Honestly, I think absolutely. And if I'm keeping things brutally honest and real, I respect Raheem Sterling. I think all of us do. We love his story. We've seen him since he was 16. Like, he came through near the area I grew up in as well too. So I've always kind of had an affiliation for Raheem Sterling, especially with all the negativity in the press and all the, the terrible stuff against him, which was never right. But if I'm focusing solely on, the pure football, honestly, I would probably move him on. Has he been an absolute flop with us? I don't think so. Personally, I felt like he was the wrong buy to begin with. I remember at the time when we signed him, I wasn't personally as excited. In my opinion, I've always felt like Raheem Sterling peaked a few years back. He wasn't going to peak again. And in reality, he's always been a player that has bursts of form during the season. You can't give him starboy wages to be the guy we turn to week in, week out to be that difference maker. He's never been that player. He peaked a few years back under Guardiola playing on the right-hand side, but he wasn't able to realistically maintain that type of form. And after that, he's been that type of, impact player where, listen, most of his goals come in braces during the season. He'll have like a hot 1, 2, 3 month spell that's scattered over the course of a season, but he's not consistently bringing the numbers or the assists. And I just personally feel like, to give him the type of money we did was always the wrong move. And it's kind of indicative of our very, poor start to life under Todd Boehly, which, listen, I completely understand why it was like that because, we just came out of sanctions. We had no sporting director. The guys we targeted didn't want to sign for us at the time. It was only Boehly as the interim with Thomas Tuchel. And to be fair, Tuchel pushed the signing of Sterling, and as we saw during the start of last season, we were seeing Sterling play more like a false nine role up front where he looked kind of decent. I remember that game against Leicester City where he had an amazing impact, and even this season he's coming big with goals from free kicks. So listen, I've still got respect for him, but I just think that what this team needs is an actual proper solid difference maker. And if you have that type of money to splash, you have to sign someone big that can regularly influence the game every single week. We need that type of player, and I just don't think Sterling's there anymore. I think Sterling's the type of guy where, if you already have a great team, he's like your squad support player, right? Like I said, it makes sense for him that he has his form in bursts during the season, and that's going to benefit your team and your squad if you have a guy like this who's playing a secondary role to your star player. And I think that was the type of role he was beginning to have with Man City. So, it's kind of no surprise to me that he wasn't necessarily going to kick up his form and go to a different level. I think he's peaked already. I think he's still a great player, but I don't think he's that type of player now that commands the money he's commanding right now. And it'll be interesting to see what we do. But if we can take him off our wage bill, if we can earn some money for his sale at least, hopefully we can reinvest that into signing like a proper top star. This is my dream signing, and I know it's not going to happen, but it would be Jamal Musiala. I mean, if there was any way we could do that, any money, any wages, I would make that happen because I think this guy has potential Ballon d'Or, potential in the future. But I just think that he'll be very hard to do. I'm looking at Kvaratskhelia. He could be great. Could Leao, is he ready now to leave AC Milan? I think they're the type of guys that this team needs. We need a balance of at least 1 or 2 stars to supplement all the great young talent we have. And if that means sacrificing some of the experienced guys like Sterling, listen, in my opinion, I'm here for it, even though I absolutely respect the guys. So that is the first story out the way. How do you feel about this? Are you happy to see Sterling go potentially, or do you think we're making a mistake and there's still a lot more left of this season for Sterling to come round and remind us of his, class and qualities? And for the second story, let's discuss our former manager in Antonio Conte. Now, Matt Law did a very revealing, insightful interview with Conte where I think he even conducted the interview in Conte's home, and I'm not going to go through everything. I'm going to leave a link in the description so you guys can read it yourselves. I think at times, sometimes with how, we discuss news in this game today, too often I see the mistake of people solely taking their news from aggregator accounts on Twitter. And the thing is, they take a lot of things out of context. They take the exciting, random quote that gets blasted everywhere for everyone to read. And a lot of times, that point in the article was a very minor one, and it's giving greater significance than it actually needed. So make sure you read it yourself here. Don't even just hear my thoughts and opinions. But Antonio Conte discussed life with our football club, and some of the interesting parts in the press conference was obviously his vision for tactics. So, he says that when he discusses tactics with his teams, he likes to use a Subitio boards. Sorry, I'm not Italian. You guys, I'm terrible. I'm absolutely awful with pronunciations, but you're seeing it on screen. It's a little tactics board that he uses, and he uses that to describe roles to players like, Moses, Son, etc, etc. That's how he likes to coach. We get some insight behind his methodology, which is nice. But he spoke about his time with our football club, and he said, listen, with some of the jobs I've taken, some clubs prioritize winning and success over playing entertaining football. So if I'm at Chelsea or Inter or Juventus, I must prioritize winning. I'm going to find the system that's going to get me the best results. And I think, listen, he absolutely did that with our football club, because that's the last time we won the league. And it's still one of the best seasons in a way, because we won 30 games that season. And to think that it came from Conte, realizing at the start that the 4-2-4 that he originally was using at Juventus wasn't really working for us at the start of his time with us. He was humble, smart, and quick enough to realize I must change things. And this is why we've never forgotten that 3-0 loss to Arsenal, where second half, 3-4-3 came, and the rest was history. So he deserves a lot of credit behind what he does. Of course, he wanted to kind of mention how he liked to try and find a balance with his teams, where he doesn't want his teams to be too defensive or too offensive. And I think that's quite fair. Of course, the mid-block setup he used a lot of times brought great success for the team. He'd mentioned that he'd be open to using a high line in the future, but if you do that, you must press aggressively. You must work hard off the ball. You must restrict the spaces. And interestingly enough, he revealed to Matt Law that he's actually working on potentially incorporating now a 4-man defense instead of using his tried and tested back 3 system. And even though I've had my criticisms of Conte with the football at times, I'm one of those guys where I'm not negative. I don't have any hate in me. I'm going to respect the great things he did. And he was one of the first managers to normalize using a back 3 system in this country. So it really tells you the cultural impact that Conte had in his first season with us. In this interview, he had absolutely no shame in stating, I'm in this business to win trophies, and I think his trophy cabinet reflects this, right? Yes, it's important to offer entertainment to the fans, as he says, but ultimately, it's not enough, because you must win. Now, the part I liked in the interview was when he mentioned after his first season, he had big hopes and dreams that we were going to go into the 17-18 season with us signing Lukaku, Van Dijk, and obviously the other names forgotten were obviously Alexandro and Alexis Sanchez. Now, of course, it would be an incredibly ambitious window. For some reason, our old board must take criticisms as well too, because they didn't help the manager. And you'd imagine that if we could secure Sanchez, Van Dijk, Lukaku at the time, and Alexandro, I think potentially we maintain that Man City, Real Madrid, Barcelona, top peak of the footballing pyramid type of quality in the team. And unfortunately, we wasted nearly 200 million plus on absolute duds that really impacted future seasons for us, because we were struggling to offload players. We gave a lot of these guys incredibly high wages, and we really set the club back due to a very poor and improper planning. And these are the stories that I don't forget. And I still like to hold the old board to accountability, because if they just focus on signing 3-4 players, most managers that come in only want 3 to 4 players signed. We could have had a greater caliber and quality of player, especially after the success of that league title win. And that's been the story of this football club, and we can keep things real. We don't build off success set from the previous seasons. From winning Champions Leagues to winning silverware, winning trophies, we don't consistently and consecutively maintain that standard and class because the ambitions dip in the market, and that's the reality. Conte himself says if he had Lukaku at the time and Van Dijk, these are 2 important players that could have changed the situation and really put the club on the map, and I absolutely agree. I remember how close we came to Lukaku, but the ball were wasting time and they got put off due to Raiola's agent fee demands, and in the end, Lukaku was like, I can't waste any more time. He went to Man United and we spent the same money on Alvaro Morata. Looking back, there was the possibility to sign Van Dijk because Liverpool weren't that Liverpool at the time. I think Sanchez would have been incredibly ambitious, but he was available, and I think Alex Sandro was the one we really tried for, but I guess in the end, 80 million for Sandro. You look back and maybe I can understand that one a bit more. But yeah, I recommend that you guys read this for yourselves. He spoke about his close friendship with our former legend too, and Gianluca Vialli, and obviously his passing away. He discussed his time at Spurs and not really being satisfied at securing 4th place. He didn't understand why they were celebrating there, so I guess we were never the right match for each other. So in my opinion, it's a very insightful interview. But yeah, you guys, share your thoughts and opinions. What is your biggest what if moment under Antonio Conte? Let us know in the comments. And for the final club news, we discussed the future surrounding Conor Gallagher. Is Gallagher going to sign a contract extension? We're getting closer to the end of the season and we still have absolutely no idea, but it's not looking too promising right now. Now it seems like Gallagher is demanding wages of around 150,000 and above, and I'd imagine that it's going to be like a base fee plus bonuses in terms of appearance fees, goals fees, etc, etc. That's how these players get paid at the end of the day. But reports from the Daily Mail and from multiple outlets suggest that even though higher-ups appreciate his form and consistency this season, they feel like, does he necessarily have those technical aspects, of course, that justify paying that amount of money? I think that's a pretty interesting question. You'd think that with Gallagher's importance to Pochettino, that would supersede anything. And reports mention that Pochettino was quite frustrated that he's really letting this board know this guy is important to how I play and what I need. And the fact that you want tying down one of the key players right now, for me, I think it's absolute testament to Conor Gallagher, who, constantly every single season, every window is one of the first names out the door. That would affect a weaker-minded player. Listen, I'm not going to get too personal, but you can compare his situation with Mason Mount's, and Connor's decided, listen, I'm going to let my football do the talking. I'm not going to be fazed by this. I know my quality. I know what I'm about. I have the backing of my teammates and my manager. That's the most important thing. I'm going to play for this club from the first minute to the last minute, and I think he deserves a lot of credit for that, because a lot of players in this game at this level, you will be frustrated that your future has not been secured already, especially with the season you're having. Now, I've spoken about Gallagher in my What Went Right video after Crystal Palace, but it's quite hard to upload this due to copyright strikes, so I'm hoping I have it out tomorrow. I'm going to go a lot more insightful discussing Conor Gallagher, so I'm not going to say everything in this video right now, but all I want to say is that we must be very careful about selling a player now that is in his pre-peak at this point in time. And what I mean by that is that he's getting close to that age where he's going to be 26, 27, where the next few years after that, he'll be at the peak of his powers. And for a guy that is one of the fittest players in the Premier League, clocking 13 kilometers against Crystal Palace, the highest stats around, it tells you everything you need to know about his physiology, his engine, his work rate, his ability to play box to box. And with someone like Gallagher, he has high mental stats, he has high physical stats, and the technical aspects are growing and improving. And I actually think the reason why he's got better this season is because he's playing around a lot more of a technical class of player. And the fact that he can raise this game to play alongside them is something that you can't dismiss, because that tells me there's more to come from him next season and the season after that. So I think this club has to really know what they're doing by letting a player like this go, because he's going to earn so much money in the market. And we're not going to receive that much money for him because his contract is coming near its end right now. So no more 60 millions or 70 millions. You're looking at maybe 35, 30 max at this point in time. So we must make sure we're getting things right and not undermining a key player in Pochettino's tactical setup, because tactical players like this, the support players that play alongside the quality players, they have their importance, they have their roles, they have their uses, and we have to start thinking about this game as a team game. Yeah, it's not about having 11 incredible individuals, it's about how you balance them out and how you use them. And I think the greatest example you can look towards is Real Madrid, because they have a mixture of absolute superstars, you know, experience, homegrown players and club produced players, and look at the team they are right now. And it kind of tells you that this game hasn't really changed that much. The principles are still there, they're still the same. And what I'm going to say is that if Gallagher goes, if Broja goes, that conveyor belt of talent you're turning to save your asses in the window, to sell on the market, is getting smaller and smaller and smaller, because we kind of like use every resource we have right now. So we must be incredibly sure about Conor Gallagher, because in my opinion, to lose a guy like this who's already good enough for the squads, listen, I think that could be a bit mad. So my friends, that's the first story out of the way. Share your thoughts and opinions. And on that note, I'm Nini FC, this is BlueLionsTV. I will see you guys later with the other video. We'll be discussing the latest transfer news, and these stories are quite interesting, so I'll see you then. Cool.